Thank you, Brett. Well, let's bring in Citrus County Sheriff Mike Pendergast. Thank you so much for being here. What are you seeing or hearing from your folks on the ground?
Hey, Dana. So we've got a saturation of our patrol deputies out all across Citrus County right now. And Colonel Flora, one of my colonels that works in the agency, he's on the west side of the county. He's sending us photos that we're sharing on our Facebook feed. And he's also sending a lot of folks out along the US 19 corridor, which is flood zone A in Citrus County, which was a mandatory evacuation zone. While we didn't experience the high winds that we would typically get from a hurricane or a tropical storm as it passes by, the very significant nature of this storm that was a Category 2 late last night and quickly became a Category 3 and then worked its way all the way up to a Category 4 just a few hours ago, right before it made landfall up in the Big Bend area, is going to bring a lot of storm surge potential for us. We are working towards low tide, and we've got very unseasonably high tides right now that have come over parking lots, and it's really working its way towards the US 19 corridor. And before too long, we might see flooding along the flood zone A area, like what we saw during Hurricane Hermine. And that's many hours before high tide after 4 p.m. this afternoon. So we've got a long ways to go before we're out of the woods. And we've been telling folks that, you know, you can run from that water and stay away from it for long enough, and we'll let you know when it's clear and safe to go back in there. While we've got a lot of folks out there, we still have quite a few folks that did not heed our warnings and evacuate when we issued the mandatory evacuation order on Monday to get them to safer ground and to get them out of harm's way away from the storm.
Sir, are you one of the entities that does not have power right now?
No, actually, we do have power, but we do have some power outages sporadically across Citrus County. And also, I just looked up on the television station because we're tracking a couple of other things going on. We've had 2 tornado warnings in our county earlier this morning. My phone just went off while we were waiting in the queue to get on the air with you and Brett. And I know there are tornado warnings popping up all over the interior parts of the state of Florida. And so we've got a long ways to go before we're out of the woods when it comes to the threat from tornadoes that are being spun off on the dirty side of this storm, which really all of the west coast of the state of Florida is on the dirty side of the storm right now, except for that extreme northern part up there where the hurricane made landfall a couple of hours ago.
And is it moving fairly fast?
Yeah, you know, surprisingly, Dana, I was really shocked when we were tracking it moving northward at about 4 miles per hour, and it kind of stayed consistent with all of the models that we were seeing coming out of the National Weather Service. And then all of a sudden, overnight, during the hours of darkness, it accelerated to 14 miles an hour. And then the next thing I know, it's moving at 18 miles an hour as it tracked northward towards the Big Bend area. So there's a good thing about that. While the northern parts of where the hurricane was traveling are going to see much more significant water from the surge coming in and inundating those low-lying areas out there. But for us, it doesn't allow that accumulation of water to build and get packed up in there and not have an opportunity to go down a little bit. We're still going to see surge type levels that we've never seen before, potentially here in Citrus County, especially over there on the western side of the county, where the city of Crystal River just celebrated its centennial a few short weeks ago, back over the 4th of July weekend. And earlier on Monday, I made the unilateral decision to shut down all of my operations in our substation that we share with the city of Crystal River. I moved all of my equipment, I moved all of my personnel out of that area because of the National Weather Service's predictions for 7 to 11 feet of storm surge over in the Crystal River area as the storm tracked north.
How does this compare with hurricanes that you've had to deal with in the past?
Well, I've lived through a super typhoon when I was on active duty in the Army stationed over in the Far East, and that super typhoon was something that I don't ever want to experience again. I reckon it's probably something close to what the folks up in Bay County survived when Hurricane Michael came roaring ashore back in 2018. But what we've seen here in just the past few years with Hurricane Hermine, which was not a hurricane when it passed us in 2016, it was a tropical storm that later developed into a hurricane and hit up in the Cedar Key area as it continued to move north and pretty much wiped out a lot of the old buildings that were up there in that little historic fishing community that everybody loves to go and spend time at during the summer months and enjoy all of that really raw nature that's up there in that area. And unfortunately, I think they're going to see some 12 to 18 foot potential wind and wave action up in that Cedar Key area as the storm continues to get some of that energy bled off of it, and it pushes that storm surge further north. But we're not too far away from it. We just don't jut out quite so deeply into the Gulf of Mexico like Cedar Key does and parts of Levy County do.
Mm-hmm. Given the name of your county, Citrus County, I'm assuming you have a lot of growers in your area. What were their preparations like?
So ironically, the citrus industry took a beating back in the late 1800s. Our county was created in 1887 by an act of the legislature, and we were renowned for our great orange juice and other citrus products. We do still have some growers on the east side of the county. We do have a lot of agricultural land. Not only do we raise agricultural products, but we've got some great dairy farmers, and we've got some great poultry farmers, and we've got a lot of cattle ranchers all over our county here. And they depend mightily on the economic impact of the products that they produce for sending to the markets, not only here in Citrus County and across the state of Florida, but all across the country. And indeed, some of the products end up being shipped all over the world because of the high quality of the things that come out of Citrus County.
I imagine a storm like this really gives them a lot of heart failure as they see what could be coming.
Well, it does, and especially for the fishing industry. Our fishing fleet has been really in a disabled mode for several days now, and we don't know what it's going to do to some of the fishing grounds over on the west side of the county, because the Gulf of Mexico borders us from the tip of our county on the north end all the way down to the south end. And we've got some great scalloping grounds here. We don't know how that's going to be impacted, because scalloping season continues until sometime about a month from now into the latter part of the month of September. So we don't know what the storm's impact will be on that very fun recreational activity that you get to do here in Citrus County, when you've got blue skies and light winds and all of the great things that you can enjoy during a typical summer day here in Florida.
Indeed. Sheriff Mike Pendergast, thank you so much. They're lucky to have you down there, and we were grateful to have you on the show.
Thank you, Dana. Thank you, Brett. Thanks for all that you all do, and be safe out there. And for our folks that are up north of us, we're praying for you.
Thank you, sir.